I wasn't supposed to be home that afternoon. It was a Friday, and I had left work early, some excuse about a migraine. But really, something had been gnawing at me, a hunch. The way she glanced at her phone lately, how she took it everywhere, even the bathroom. The way she smiled when she thought no one was looking. A smile I hadn't seen in years, not since we were 23 and reckless. So I came home, expecting nothing, and found everything. The phone call came 20 minutes after I walked through the door, a number I didn't recognize, calling her phone that she'd left charging on the kitchen counter. I answered. Silence. Then a voice, male, hesitant. Is this her husband? My heart stuttered. Yes, who is this? He hung up. That night, I didn't mention it. Instead, I watched her. I watched how she casually stirred the pasta, how she kissed my cheek and told me about her day. I watched her laugh at a dumb commercial, and all I could think about was how perfect she was at pretending. The next day, I found the box. It was buried behind old Christmas decorations in the attic, wooden, locked, but not well. Inside, a stack of envelopes tied in red ribbon, a flash drive and photos. Dozens of them. All of her. Younger, yes, but unmistakably her. Standing with people I didn't recognize. In places she swore she'd never been. But one photo chilled me. It was her and the man from the call, smiling, holding hands. A date scrawled on the back, July 2019, when she'd told me she was at a yoga retreat in Colorado. She'd never been to Colorado. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. I plugged in the flash drive. What I found changed everything. My wife. Hair pulled back, wearing a black hoodie I'd never seen before. She sat on the edge of the bed, looking tense, speaking to someone behind the camera. "I'm not backing out," she said. "You knew what this was." A man's voice answered. I recognized it immediately, the same one from the phone call. "You think he'll never find out?" She hesitated. "He trusts me too much." The video ended there. The second file was a document, a scanned contract. It had no company header, no official seals, just names, dates, and signatures. One of them was hers. The other was someone named Daniel K. Voss. It wasn't in English. The final file was a folder of photos. Some candid, some surveillance style. And not just of her, of me, leaving work, sitting in our backyard, even one of me sleeping. I reeled back from the screen, heart pounding. It felt like I couldn't breathe. My wife had been watching me, or someone had. For how long? And why? I closed the laptop and went downstairs, legs shaking beneath me. She was still asleep on the couch, curled up like nothing had changed, like I hadn't just peeked into a version of her I didn't recognize. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking, who is Daniel Voss? What is that contract? And the worst question of all, was our whole marriage a lie? The next morning, I decided to follow her. She left at 9:42 a.m., said she was meeting Claire for brunch. Claire, who'd moved to Chicago last year, I tailed her downtown, my hands sweaty on the steering wheel. She didn't go to a cafe. She parked in an alley behind an old printing shop and walked inside through a side door like she'd done it 100 times. I waited. 15 minutes, 30. Then I followed. The hallway smelled like ink and mildew. I moved quietly, each step echoing. Then I heard her voice, through a crack in a half-open door. "He doesn't suspect anything, but I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." A pause. A man answered. His voice. "You knew the conditions. One more drop, then you're out. Clean. We both are." I pushed the door open. They both turned, startled. My wife's eyes widened. In shock, then something else. Guilt. Or was it fear? "Who are you?" I asked the man. He didn't flinch. He stepped between us. "You need to leave, now." My wife finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out like this." I stepped back. The walls felt like they were closing in. "I don't even know who you are." She looked at me, and for the first time in 7 years, I believed her. Because whoever she wasn't the woman I married. Part 2. The truth beneath the surface I didn't leave. I should have. Any sane person would have walked away and called a lawyer or the police. But I just stood there, waiting for her to explain. For any of it to make sense. My wife, no, the woman I thought was my wife, stepped around the man slowly, like she was approaching a wounded animal. Her hands were raised, palms open. "Let me explain," she said softly. The man, Daniel, I assumed, spoke firmly. "We don't have time for this." "He deserves to know," she snapped. She turned back to me. Her eyes were glistening. "My name isn't Claire Matthews," she said. I stared. My stomach turned. "What?" "It's my real middle name," she added, as if that softened the blow. Claire Matthews was part of the cover. Daniel groaned. "Unbelievable." "I was recruited in college," she continued. "Before I met you, I thought I was done with that part of my life. But they pulled me back in after we got married, quietly. A handler here, a drop there. Nothing dangerous at first, until it was. I could barely process what she was saying. Who? I asked. Who pulled you back in? She hesitated. It wasn't the CIA or FBI. Think adjacent, private intelligence, contracted, off-book. I can't name them, not without putting you in danger. Too late for that, I muttered. Daniel stepped forward. She was protecting you, every step of the way. You were never the target. But you were watching me, I said. Those photos, that contract. You lied to me every single day for 7 years. I didn't lie about loving you, she said. God help me, I believed her. Daniel glanced at his phone. We have to go. They're expecting the drop in 30 minutes. She looked torn, like she wanted to stay, like she might cry. Instead, she reached into her bag and handed me another flash drive. This explains everything, she said. If something happens to me, take it to a woman named Teresa Landon. She works at the New York Times. Don't trust anyone else. She stepped toward me, kissed my cheek, then whispered, I'm so sorry. And then she was gone. I stood there for a long time. Eventually, I went home, locked every door, drew the blinds, then I plugged in the new flash drive. This time, there were hundreds of files, names, accounts, emails, surveillance photos, a ledger of payments, code names, some I recognized from the news, CEOs, politicians, tech giants, all connected, and then her file. Subject, Claire Matthews, alias, status, active asset, compromised pending termination, protocol in place. That's when I realized she wasn't just trying to protect me, she was running for her life. Part 3, the journalist I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark with the flash drive in my hand, replaying every word she said, every lie that had once been a shared memory. I wanted to hate her, but all I felt was fear. Someone had marked her for termination, and I was holding the proof. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I didn't know who to trust, not the police, not the FBI, maybe not even my own family. But I had one name, Teresa Landon, New York Times. So I called her. Her voice was sharp, professional. She didn't seem surprised when I told her my wife gave me her name. Meet me in the Bryant Park reading room, she said. Wear something boring, bring nothing else. That was it. A click. New York was cold and wet that afternoon. I sat on a bench under a canopy of leafless trees, holding the flash drive tight in my coat pocket. I watched every face pass. Paranoia came easy now. She arrived 10 minutes late. Brown coat, red scarf, eyes like a hawk. You him? She asked. I nodded. She sat beside me, pulled out a newspaper and unfolded it like we were discussing baseball scores. Start talking. I told her everything. The phone call, the attic box, the video, the contract. I gave her the drive. She didn't react, just kept reading. Finally, she said, Your wife's name has come up before, in whispers. Usually tied to a private intel firm called Harker and Grange. Ex-intelligence, no oversight. Specialise in corporate blackmail, political leverage, and removals. Removals, I repeated. People, she said flatly. They make problems disappear. I stared at the joggers, the street musicians, the kids feeding pigeons. She's in danger, isn't she? Teresa stood. She's already dead if that contract's been activated. Number she's still alive. I saw her yesterday. Then you better pray she stays hidden. She turned to walk away, then paused. I'll go through the files. If what you've got is real, I'll blow the story wide open. But once I do, your life and hers will never be the same again. What should I do now? I asked. She looked at me like she already knew how this would end. Don't go home. That night I checked into a motel off I-87 under a fake name. I kept the lights low, the curtains drawn. I watched the news, scoured forums, and waited. At 2:13 a.m, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A man's voice, not Daniel's. Cold, mechanical. We know what you have. You have one chance to give it back and walk away. Otherwise, we take it. My breath caught. Then a second voice, barely a whisper, cutting through the static. Run! It was her. Then the line went dead. Part 4, her side. 3 miles underground, in a bunker built for wars the public never hears about, Claire Matthews was supposed to be dead. At least, that's what the file said, but Claire Matthews didn't exist, not anymore. She was born Elena Maris Volkov, daughter of a Russian defector and a Cold War ghost, recruited at 17, embedded by 20. By 23, she was living a lie so clean it passed for real, complete with a marriage, a dog, and a suburban mortgage. And she had fallen in love with all of it, especially him. But the truth had a shelf life, and hers had just expired. She'd known it the second Daniel said the words. Termination protocol has been initiated. That meant someone at Harker and Grange, maybe even someone she'd once trusted, had flagged her as a liability. And liabilities didn't retire. They disappeared. She'd escaped the safe house with seconds to spare. Daniel covered for her, giving her just enough time to burn her phone, wipe her prints, and vanish. But she couldn't go far, not without seeing him one last time, not without warning him. So she called. One whisper through a rerouted number, one word: run. Now she was deep inside the belly of the city, moving through backdoor subway tunnels and tech server basements, the kind of infrastructure that Harker had no digital eyes on. Yet. She carried with her a second copy of the files. Not just blackmail material, the full database, names, dates, methods, leverage on half the world's elite, including who'd signed her off for removal. She was going to take them down, but first, she had to find him. Not to ask for forgiveness, not anymore. That ship had sunk with her old life, but to protect him. She knew they'd come for him next, because they'd assumed she told him everything. And maybe, in the end, she had. From a dark booth in a forgotten cyber cafe in Queens, she reached out. Teresa Landon's encrypted inbox lit up at 3:42 a.m. with one line of text: "Meet me tomorrow, 5 p.m, Pier 19, come alone, bring him." Claire clicked send, then leaned back. The hunt had begun, and this time she was the predator. Part 5. The Pier. The Hudson was black glass under the sky, rippling with city light reflections. Pier 19 was almost deserted, the way Claire had hoped. Just an old ferry terminal, a few rusted benches, and the hum of distant traffic. He stood near the edge, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes scanning the shadows. He almost didn't recognize her. She had dyed her hair dark, wore a hood pulled low, moved with a stiffness he hadn't seen before, like each step was a calculation, not a habit. But her eyes were the same. Their eyes met. She didn't run. He didn't speak. Teresa stood back under the awning, watching, arms crossed. Claire broke the silence. "You came." "I shouldn't have." "I know." They stared at each other like strangers who remembered being in love. She stepped closer. "They're not going to stop. They'll come for you next." He nodded. "They already called." "Then we don't have time." She turned to Teresa, handed over a hard drive wrapped in Kevlar cloth. "This is the full archive. Everything. Operations, names, proof of illegal hits. This will burn Harker to the ground." Teresa took it, her eyes wide. "Are you sure?" "I don't care anymore," Claire said. "Just make it count." Suddenly, a sharp whine cracked the silence. The mechanical flutter of a surveillance drone overhead. Claire's eyes went wide. "Move!" Gunfire tore across the pier. They ran, ducking behind shipping crates. He had never heard real bullets until now. They sounded like bones snapping from the inside. Two men in tactical gear emerged from a black SUV at the far end of the pier. No warning, no arrests, just orders to kill. Claire pulled a pistol from her coat, the same one she'd once buried in their garden. She fired 3 rounds. One man dropped. Teresa dove behind a concrete pillar, clutching the drive to her chest like it was sacred. "Go!" Claire shouted. "Get her out of here!" He hesitated. "Now!" So he grabbed Teresa and ran, dragging her down the docks and into the night. Behind him, he heard one more gunshot. Then silence. He never saw her again. The story broke 2 weeks later. Front page: Harker and Grange exposed in global scandal, arrests, trials, government denials. Claire's name was never mentioned, but she had done it. She had kept her promise. Sometimes he walks past Pier 19 and wonders if she's still alive, in some other country, with a new name and a different face. He'll never know, but every time he hears the word liability, he thinks of her. And he smiles, because they underestimated the wrong woman. The end.